Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is our regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is November 6th, 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. and we're going to start out by saying the pledge. You'll join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Roll call, please, Randy.
Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Kidda.
Here.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Rickower.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Duran.
Here.
The staff present is Manager Kangas, our attorney Roger Zappa, and our finance director Kim Clark is here. And on Zoom, we have our Public Works Superintendent Lenny Bodinas, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment before we start the meeting? Anybody wish to say anything? Okay, that's fine. Thank you for everybody that voted for me specifically. I don't want to speak for the board, but welcome to everybody. We will have a new board member, and I'm glad the election went well, Randy. I thought he'd be pulling his hair out, but you can be very proud of him. He works very hard at making things perfect.
Yeah, I'll cover some of the stuff later in announcements, but yeah, last night was great. Everything went well. Thank the Sheriff's Department for stopping in every 2 to 3 hours to make sure things were good. So, and I had a radio just in case. I had to get a hold of Central to have someone come over, but everything went well here. So, and all my workers were great. My staff member Michelle Schroeder was outstanding. So, kudos to everyone that worked last night. It was a great night. Randy's stress was a lot lower than it used to be, so I'm not a crabby clerk tonight.
I'm glad because I share the office with him. Okay, let's get into the consent agenda. Tonight that includes approval of regular meeting minutes of October 16th, excuse me, 2024, special meeting minutes of October 31st. We have bills payable in the amount of $215,402.73. No other reports. I've included a couple different things in here. Randy put his October 15th election commission packet and draft minutes in. I gave you the DNR 2024 road inventory. I thought that would be kind of interesting for you to see with ATVs and stuff. I'm also announcing the second annual assessor forum for realtors, bankers, and title companies. It was a resounding success last year, so this year it's going to be on December 3rd. Excuse me. And we did have a billing insert on the back of your calendar and your utility bill. We included some information on North Country disposal and the trash pickup, so be sure and look at the back of your calendar. It's good information on there because we don't want your trash to be left. We want it to get picked up. So we just need approval of that.
Move to accept the consent.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest on this agenda, so we just need approval of the remainder unless there are any changes.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Excuse me. Let's start with a thank you. That's always a good way to kick off the meeting. We've got Michael Springer's been volunteering with us forever. And I don't even remember when it started.
Forever and ever and
Not
ever.
long after when I did. Mike, you want to come up? And Andrew's going to read it, our treasurer.
Get the microphone.
And recognition of public service to Michael Springer. Whereas more than half of Michigan's residents reside in Marquette Township, and whereas township government provides the greatest opportunity for residents to shape, protect, and support the character of their community, and whereas Michael Springer has selflessly stepped forward to serve his community for many years, in the capacity of serving on the Planning Commission for 13 years, Rec Committee for 7 years, the Downtown Development Authority for 7 years, the Zoning Board of Appeals for 3 years, and Ad Hoc Rec Committee for 1.5 years. Wow. And whereas Michael Springer has also made significant contribution to writing an MDOT TAP grant application for $2.5 million for the underpass beneath US Highway 41 and the $7 million road millage project, and conducted the National Trail Cleanup Day for many years. And whereas Michael Springer has shared countless PowerPoint presentations and financially supported many of the endeavors he's helped to create. And whereas Michael Springer has nominated and won the Civic Plus 2020 Small Town American Civic Volunteer Award, entitling the township to a free website. And whereas Michael and Marquette Township residents and Marquette Township Board of Trustees have greatly benefited from his dedication and participation, and therefore it will be resolved that the Marquette Township Board of Trustees express their grateful appreciation for the dedication and service of Michael Springer. Claimed this 6th day of November, 2024.
Thank you, Andrew.
Congratulations.
It's very good for all the thoughts. We got lucky with that, didn't we?
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you. I got a few words to say. You wouldn't think you're gonna get away without a few words from me, would you?
No PowerPoint tonight, Mike?
No PowerPoint.
Congratulations. Oh, well deserved.
It's not a complete list either.
No.
Roger.
And you helped.
All right, Michael.
Thank
There
you.
go.
So this means a lot to me, but it's really the people that I've worked with that deserve the recognition as well. I've been fortunate that the staff here was real helpful, beginning with the planning staff and also all the clerical staff that helped me with whatever it is we're working on. This board, thank you, and the past boards that have supported a lot of initiatives that I brought forth on behalf of either planning or recreation or roads. The fire department for their help with the Iron Range roll for 8 years. And Lynn, if I remember correctly, you were on the rec committee when we applied for our first grant for Schwimwood Park.
Yeah.
And we got that, and that's our trailhead on the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. Also, you'll remember us applying for the Sustainable Built Initiative Grant and getting that in
Sorry, I
about
missed
5
those.
minutes before the office
That's right.
closed, the post
Yeah.
office. And last but not least, she couldn't be here tonight, but my wife, Michelle Moran, has been very supportive, understanding, and patient. There's a patient, and there's a lot of house projects that didn't get done. I'm still working on those. But thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor being part of this.
Thank you.
Okay. From the sublime to the ridiculous, Timothy? Just teasing.
I think I come here every year and bring everybody down about the drug talk, but I'll try to liven things up a little bit. So I'm here on behalf of the Upper Peninsula Substance Enforcement Team. Again, they've been around since 1988, and I've been lucky enough to be with them since 2012, actually. So I'm very rooted in this community. Upset's very rooted in this community, and we touch actually all four corners of the Upper Peninsula. Marquette County, Delta County, and Houghton, as you can expect with the population, are primary counties where we see more arrests and more drug activity just based on population-wise. But I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Marquette County, at least over the last year. Upset's been extremely busy. If you kind of see what the drug trends have been like, crystal meth has actually continued to skyrocket with fentanyl very, very close behind it. Here in the Upper Peninsula, specifically in Marquette Township, I just wanted to touch on a case, and I think I touched on it a little bit last year. I wasn't able to say too much, but I'll talk a little bit more about it because some of that case is coming to a closure. A couple of people got already sentenced in federal prison. So I'll just kind of go over something that's in our annual report about what happened in Marquette Township. So this is back where it happened about 1.5 years ago. Detectives from Upset, they were investigating someone from Marquette Township over about a 6-month period. And we identified that they're involved in distribution of heroin and meth, primarily meth. This Marquette Township resident was making regular trips both to other states as well as creating a contact with someone who lived in Arizona. The person from Arizona had ties originally from the Ishpeming area. However, the retirement resident ended up being in Arizona, and they had prior criminal history, prior federal prison time, and their relationship started to bond. And sooner or later, our person here in Marquette County, Marquette Township, asked them if they'd start buying drugs for them. And that encouraged huge quantities of crystal meth. And I'm talking huge quantities of crystal meth that were coming into Marquette County. I'm talking at times there was anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds every trip that they were making to bring in crystal meth. We conducted our investigation. We ended up identifying that they were making a trip back. I spent the night in Green Bay, I think it was, catching up with some of them. And we eventually arrested the main suspect from Marquette Township in the Iron Mountain area as they were coming back from a trip. And they had, I believe, 2 pounds of crystal meth on them, about $8,000 in cash. They were on disability payments, and come to find out that the disability payments were being deposited directly into their bank account where they said they didn't have much because with these disability payments, they could only have a certain amount of money and income. And we ended up finding some extra bank accounts at a local bank here. We ended up freezing those bank accounts and seizing about an additional, I believe there was about an additional $8,000 in those bank accounts. I remember talking to one of the tellers, and she said it was really weird whenever the person would pull up and they'd have in their passenger seat, there was cash, just piles of cash. And she was trying to hand it in so she could put it into her bank account. So selling a lot of drugs. This person was tied into someone who lived up in Big Bay, who we ended up arresting with another 2 pounds of crystal meth. The story goes on and on, but eventually we get the source from Arizona to come back to the area. And with the coordination of Green Bay, Wisconsin State Patrol, we ended up arresting that person with 1 pound of crystal meth in Green Bay. Federally indicted them. Currently, the person from Marquette Township is serving 2 years. I believe it's a 2-year state prison sentence, and when she gets done with that, she's going to go serve another 6 in federal prison. The Arizona source, who was 73 years old, I believe, 72, I think he turned 73 when we arrested him on his birthday. He had an additional 6 years, I believe, in federal prison. And this continued case just continues to snowball. The person from Big Bay, they're still waiting federal sentencing right now. So I expect a very, very high prison sentence because of their criminal history. But these are the types of cases that Upset does. And we continue to branch off of these cases because someone does come in and fill in those gaps that we've created. But I tell you, it's what I've always been impressed about in this community is that when someone comes in from outside of the area and we see large amount of drugs, the community actually recognizes that before us, and they call us. We get tips on a regular basis from apartment complexes here in Marquette Township, from hotel owners, from community owners that see something different at the drug houses that's in their section of town. And a lot of our tips are generated from them, from the road patrol deputies that hear this and they're in touch with people in the local community. And that's what makes us so successful, them starting something and us just trying to follow it through. Upset's funded, believe it or not, by primarily community contributions. We do write some grants. There's a federal burn grant that helps cover some officer salaries related to the case, or related to the team. But when it really comes down to how do we pay for vehicles, office expenses, cell phones, specialized equipment that we have, that comes at a price of about $185,000 a year. And it's difficult when the state police says, hey, we'll let you go organize and run this drug team, but we're not really gonna help you with the funding. We'll give you some radios so you can use some state police devices and some computers, but when it comes down to really operating expenses, and I think everyone here knows what it costs to run an office space, run a building, that those costs can be high. So primarily our contributions help support that. It's always a bonus when we get extra contributions, extra funding from different sources, because then we can actually upgrade some of the equipment that's been failing us over the years or just needs to be updated. And we're really into technology now, that just with the life that we live with cell phones and data. So we try to enhance our investigative techniques by utilizing certain data resources and different investigative devices. I don't want to go into too many details, but we have some pretty neat things that we do with monitoring drug trends and tracking people and making sure that we're following through with our cases and containing that evidence. So I know that you guys have been really just incredibly, we're thankful for the $10,000 that you give us on a regular basis each year. That money, in all honesty, I think I've said this before, that one case was probably spent the $10,000 that we did, but we keep fighting for you, and we're here to support you. We're thankful that you support us. When it comes down to the drugs that we seize, they are incredibly high. There are large amounts of drugs. I remember about 6 or 7 years ago when I was talking to the criminal chief at the U.S. Attorney's Office down in Grand Rapids, and he said, hey, listen, we'll take a case from you and we'll turn it into a federal case as long as you get over about 10 grams of crystal meth every time. And that lasted for about 6 months, and he said, hey, we got to start working on ounces now. And that lasted for about another 6 months, and right now we overwhelmed the U.S. Attorney's Office. They have 3 U.S. attorneys up there, and about 80% of their work comes from offset detectives and the federal agents that are in our office. The other 20% probably comes from the postal investigators, Border Patrol, and FBI. So they're funded primarily through our office and our detectives. So I'm really proud that we give them so much work, and we're just thankful that you continue to support us. I just ask for continued support because there's always better investigative equipment that we really need. I can't go into a ton of detail, but when it comes down to simple things like binoculars, high lens cameras, all of these things enhance our cases. Night vision goggles, things like that are just help us develop that evidence to bring to the U.S. Attorney's Office, the prosecutor, that just make them want to take the case that much more. So if there is ever extra funding that is out there, please, I ask you to think of us because it does go to good use. There are so many people that come up to us during search warrants after the fact, and they're like, well, thank gosh you guys came in and brought those people out of our community, and we want to continue to support them. So we thank you for supporting us, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Randy?
Tim, last year you made a comment, and I really took it, it was kind of an eye-opener that if your services weren't in Marquette Township, well, the local area, Marquette Township could be an Ishpeming. I don't want to pick on Ishpeming, but they've had high drug uses there.
You do. You are. I do think you're fortunate here. One, you've got Marquette Sheriff's Department, and you guys contract with them, and I'm really supportive of that. Their road officers are primarily where we get some more of our tips of what's actually going on, just on service calls, just simple, domestic calls and things like that. Usually spin into something else that involves us. I've said it over the years that there's no doubt that hotels, which primarily are in Marquette Township, are sometimes a nesting spot, unfortunately, for criminals that come into the area. I'll say this too, because I'm I'm not against marijuana businesses that, I understand that they have their place in our community these days, but I do know that from my cases, I see crystal meth and I see marijuana hand in hand, unfortunately. And some of those people that get exposed, not all of them, but some of those people that take on marijuana build up to other drugs. I was in a search warrant 3 nights ago, and there was a lot of marijuana there, and there was a lot of crystal meth there. And those drugs unfortunately go hand to hand. So I hope to, and it's difficult in Michigan because the price of marijuana, if you try to sell it over in Wisconsin, you're gonna make money and you're gonna bring back crystal meth. So the drug dealers here that sell marijuana across state lines are bringing back cocaine, crystal meth, and fentanyl. So we're challenged with that a little bit because that's a funding source for them. Not everyone, but again, that's a funding source for some of the drug dealers that deal meth. But I'm thankful that I've actually been in contact with quite a few of the hotel managers, and we have some good communication there, and I want to make sure that we maintain that. And I think that one bad drug dealer, one bad prescribing doctor can change a community, and I've seen it in smaller towns. So I'm thankful that you're continuing to work with us, and we're going to do everything we can for all of you.
Tim, how big is your team?
Some days not big enough. Well, we have 4 different teams, so they're actually broken up. However, I see them as one cohesive unit because if we need 3 or 4 extra bodies, I'll call the team that primarily provides service down to like the Escanaba area or sometimes the Houghton area. I have office spaces. One office space is right here in Marquette County. I have office space over in Escanaba, one office space over in Houghton County, and one in Sault Ste. Marie. So what that brings though is that not all these people live in those areas. Some of these troopers that were from a state police post, they still live in their home area of the state police post. So they're still gathering the information from their local communities, getting together with the other detectives, and we expand those cases that way. The other thing that we're really fortunate to have is, like right now we have, the state police has a team called the Traffic Services Team, and they're a group of uniformed police officers that don't really have the same responsibilities as a normal trooper at the post. So when we're shorthanded, we need canines, so we can pull from those resources, and we can have a good uniform presence right there with us at any given time. They kind of really flex their schedule because drug dealers don't follow my schedule at all, unfortunately. So our team continues to grow. We have federal agents. There's 2 ATF agents, 1 agent from the DEA. We have a vacancy for 1. It looks like we're going to get another 1 up here, I'd say within a year. We now have 2 Border Patrol agents in the area. They do work in uniform right now, but we're talking about how we can bring them in an undercover presence with us. I've got 3 troopers from the state, and this is just in the Marquette area. I've got 2 troopers from the state police, 1 sergeant, Marquette County Sheriff's Department, Marquette City police officers, Bureau of Indian Affairs agent, 2 Homeland Security investigators. I got an intel analyst that helps us with putting all this data that we get together. So we're very well, we're a good group of people, a lot of experience.
That's a lot.
And that's just the Marquette area. That's not counting the other 3 offices.
Any other questions for Tim?
Just, thank you.
Well, we'll continue to do, you know, I think it's challenging. One thing I'll say is that I think the most thing I've seen over the years, what's challenging for me is that people want service immediately. And I'm unfortunately usually not the person to call when this says, I got a drug dealer in my house, you come and arrest them. And if we want to really follow through with these investigations and find the real source, we'll take our time with it a little bit. We'll keep the uniformed officers' presence on what's going on at those activities to disrupt and dismantle what they do on a regular basis. And then when it comes down to these cases really being built and you're going to see people go away for 10, 15 years, then that's where we fall in. So not always as fast as I wish we were, but there's good purpose behind it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Everything you did.
We'll leave a couple annual reports here for
Oh,
you
great.
too, if you want
Yes.
to pass them around, and I can email them.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, community linkage. couple things to share. I've already put some of that stuff in the agenda. Housing, of course, is taking up a lot of my time, as it is with a lot of the other organizations in the county. And Housing Now, you probably saw, it was in the paper and on Channel 6 about how they're accelerating and getting more and more funding, and the groups, this is an offshoot of that group that I was involved with, that we made a contribution to, and the total market analysis came out of that. So this is probably the last step of how this all kind of came together. So the total market analysis provides the statistical information, quantitative data that allows developers and bankers and financiers and contractors to pull together and figure out where to build the homes, how much can we charge for them, who's gonna rent them or buy them or rehab them. So that's, when you hear the partnership, Christopher Germain on TV or something talking about Housing Now, this is what the result is of everything. It's the culmination of all the hard work that a bunch of us put in. So I just want to, make you aware it's working. And it is, you can see some of it in Marquette. We might have some of it here in the township. So we're getting there. Houses aren't going to be built overnight, but the projects are coming. So just want to assure you and the public of that. We do have some committee openings. We're doing things a little differently this year. The terms that are up, except for this group, most of our committee seats are on staggered terms, and any of the terms that are up December 31st of this year, those people holding those seats will need to reapply. I have probably 4 that I contacted again today as a kind of reminder. They need to fill out an application, and it does allow for more community members to participate. Sometimes if they think the seat is filled, they don't even, make an attempt to say, hey, I'd like to be on this committee or that committee. So I just want you to know that there's an application on our website. If you're interested in any of the committees, contact me or fill out the form or check with the office, just in case. I've been to the last County Township Association meeting. We had a great presentation from the Road Commission. The long and the short of it is they have an $11 million budget, and by the time they do their static expenses, they've got $2 million for roads. So there was an extensive conversation and questions and answers and presentation. And there's not a lot they can do, but they're trying as hard as they can to, not counting our road millage, this is just their responsibility with the plowing and the road upkeep and the ditches and whatever else they have to do, grass cutting, maintaining. And then Scott Urbish gave a county report, as well as the LSCP, the Lake Superior Community Partnership. So that was it for meetings and conversations. What are you guys hearing? Anything other than the election? Any comments? Anybody grabbing you in the store? Or no? That's good. You hate to think that maybe that's good that we're doing what we should be doing. It's nice to think that maybe that is it. I don't know.
So I just have a comment.
Sure.
Because I continue to hear about the blight in our community from people who do grab you at an event that you're at, and I have been directing them to Jason and our other person, Eric. So I guess that's our correct path to follow. So they have an email and a phone number. So continue to use that. And our blight ordinance is being reviewed by the attorney, and so that should be coming to us, the township board, soon for approval.
Okay, sounds good. Has a little more teeth in it.
Yep, so no, we'll just have to make sure we have the people to
Yes.
do that, so.
Good, good. Okay, let's talk about Public Works. Lenny's online. There he
Hello,
is.
everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, Oh, thank you. This is just going to be for a truck crane. This is going to be for one of the trucks that we have purchased earlier in the year. It is meant to replace the truck that we were authorized to put up for surplus. We haven't gotten rid of that truck yet because we had the old crane on the truck. We were originally going to take the crane off of that truck and put it on the new truck, but when we started looking at it, it's not going to be very safe the way we would have to do it. Wouldn't be safe for this new truck. So this is going to be a new crane. It's kind of an integral part of our equipment. We need this to pull pumps out of our lift stations. So whenever like a pump would go down, this is what we use to pull it out. We also use it for lifting and loading sodium hypochlorite barrels out to the well field, and then anything else that we need that's too heavy to lift up. So I did get a quote here from, would be from Truck and Trailer Specialists of Boyne Falls. It's for $3,600 or $3,699.14.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we purchase the crane for the truck at $36.99.14.
Support.
Motion and support. Any questions for Lenny?
So I have a question,
Sure.
Lenny, will you install that? Your department?
So
or will
yes. Yeah, we're gonna have to have a little bit more, we're gonna have to build up the current truck. We'll go to Marquette Machine. I think they have to put a steel plate down, and then we'll be able to do some of the work in-house, actually install it ourselves, but we'll have to get some like pre-work, just building up the bed with some plate steel, just because it's meant to carry weight.
So do you need more money to complete that project?
We might, but we will need more money, but I'm not sure how expensive. It's not going to be really expensive. It won't be like, thousands of dollars or anything like that. But I won't know what it's going to cost till we actually get it done.
Will you be able to do something with the old crane then? Will you leave it on the truck and sell it that way, or?
Yeah, so I mean, originally, I think when the motion was made to put the other truck in surplus, I don't think I had the crane and the other parts on it. But right now, if we took the crane off and tried to sell it to somebody else, it wouldn't work for anything. So I think we're just going to go ahead and leave it on. It's just going to be part of the truck.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, consider Fishback proposal for evaluation of Northwoods Pump Station.
So this one is kind of similar to the Cox study that we had a few months back. So as part of, if we go ahead and we purchase a share into the water plant and we decide to run the majority of our system or even all of our system off of city water, part of that is going to be pumping from Cox up to Northwoods and then from Northwoods to the rest of the system. And that would be kind of pumping water up towards Chapel Ridge Tank. In order to do that, the pumps that we have in Northwoods are older and they're really not designed for that purpose. So we would have to have a study to kind of tell us what would have to be done, what kind of pumps we'll have to put in to the Northwoods in order to accomplish that fact. So it would be kind of a study to see, number one, what we would need to do, and number two, kind of what the price would be. And so this will be a comprehensive study of that. And also, so with the proposal, Attorney Zappa did look at the proposal. There was a few minor amendments that are going to be made in the proposal, and I actually have those, but I did not have a chance in time to give them to the board. But they're mainly just wording type of things in there. So I'll make sure I send that off to the board as well afterwards here.
Okay. Randy?
I'll move to accept the Fishback proposal for not to exceed $19,500.
Support.
Okay. Any other questions for Lenny?
Just a comment, Lynn.
Sure.
This is gonna be another step in the process of getting our proposal of the water plant purchase moving forward. So, because we gotta have that information, as Lenny said, to know about the pumping to these various tanks and such. So it's integral to do that, to get this approved.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And thank you.
Thanks, Lenny. Okay, there's nothing for us to do on the next one, but I did want to kind of explain what we're doing. It says to consider the 2025 Fire and Rescue Department Operations Manual draft. And then hopefully December 4th meeting, we will approve that to be effective the first of the year. So I brought the book, just so you can see how involved it was. 8 chapters, covers everything for the fire department. It will, it can be superseded by the township manual if depending on what the circumstance is. But a lot of this is operation type stuff that they have to follow with their training and licensing and stuff. But I'm gonna put this in the office behind the secretary's desk, and if you wanna glance at it, you've gotten it in your emails. Hopefully you got it. If you didn't, let me know. It was just too much to print, to hand out to everybody. 279 pages. So if you have questions, you can check with the fire chief or me. I know this intimately. I'm going through it so many times. But feel free, you know, to put sticky notes on here or write on it if you want, if you've got questions or comments or something you think we need to change. So we'll look at this December 4th meeting for approval, unless something else happens, okay? Just wanted to give you a heads up. John?
I just wanted to take time to recognize your involvement in that kind of work. It's something that needs to be appreciated, and I thank you. And well, I may not be here for that, but I want you to know that we in the township should appreciate all the dedicated work you make that prepares for a vote.
It's not the supervisor's duty to do that. I asked staff if it would be okay if I helped with that, because I like doing it. But it's probably not gonna ever have to happen again. So I just thought, let's do it right. As they make amendments or changes, or the law changes, it's easy enough then to just add, you know, pages or something.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now we can talk about police services. We've got the whole force here just about, my gosh.
Not close. You want to do your business first and then I'll talk, or?
Whatever.
Okay.
I think you should talk first.
I'll talk first.
It's important. Contracts on the agenda.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come here again and talk with you and kind of update you what's going on with Marquette County Sheriff's Office. First of all, I know Tim left, but I can't emphasize what a great job they do. I mean, I'm on their board and I hear the different stuff that goes on, and it's scary what is actually going on. And you know, Marquette Township, they have become destination spots, whether summer, spring, winter, and fall. All 4 seasons we have people coming for different events, and it's great. We have tourism, they're spending their money, but with that growth comes problems, and be it the homeless or the drugs, but it's coming here, and Upset does an outstanding job, and Tim does a great job. So thank you for contributing to that. I was the board chair 20-some years ago when Upset first started, and we were selling cookies and stuff just to buy money. So they've come a long way, and there's a lot of good federal grants, the Byrne grant, and which helps immensely. But these local contributions from the townships are huge. So thank you for that. As far as the Marquette County Sheriff's Office, I guess the biggest changes we have is the personnel. We're going through, and Lowell can probably tell you more, but we just sent through the last academy, what, 4? 3 through the last academy, and now we're looking at possibly 3 or 4 more to replace. Every time we hire someone, we got 3 or 4 retiring. So the whole department, it's just pretty new. And so that in itself, every time you hire someone up, then you're, you know, you're bringing more people up in the interviews, and it just takes forever, and I'm sure you all know that. So it's a very time-consuming thing, but I think we're getting some really, really good quality officers. And I thank the governor, her office, for putting out, it started as a $30 million grant to help local municipalities because of the fact that no one is going into law enforcement or corrections and that type of thing. Kids aren't going into it. So what she did, she put this money in an account, and we go for a grant, and it helps pay for kids to go through the academy. And it was up $25,000 per recruit. And so we're getting some really, really good quality officers that want to be there, but originally couldn't afford it to go through the police academy. So the price has gone up, and we're sending more through, we're losing more. But I guess I'd like to introduce a couple. You know, of course, you know Mike Anderson. Mike's been with us for what, 3 years now? 2 years. 2 years. We just started doing interviews for sergeant's positions, and we're interviewing kids that have 2 years experience for sergeant, which was just unheard of years ago. You know, usually you get 5 or 10 years and before you even start thinking about hiring. But this is how new the department is. It's not only us, it's Marquette City, it's every department in the state and in the country. It's a whole new generation of police officers. But of course, with untimely and quick death of Dan Willey, which was very unfortunate, but I hired Lowell Larson. He's our new undersheriff, as you well know. And then we just promoted within, I don't know, months, but Alex Gill, that is taking Lowell's place as the lieutenant, the road lieutenant, overseeing that operation. So that's relatively new, but we have a lot of new officers. Lowell, why don't you come up here and I'll have you go over some of the stuff.
Like the sheriff said, 63% of our employees right now have less than 5 years on the job. But I think we've stopped the bleeding and we're starting to build, so I'm very excited about that. But very excited about the department. We got a lot of good stuff going on, good personnel coming online, and our jail, we're making some progress there. It's been a long issue that has haunted us for many years, is the ability to house inmates and everything. So we're working well with the county board, moving that forward. So I'm looking for more progress reports in the next couple months regarding that. But
they recently hired a consultant. I think, was it 50,000 they put towards that?
Yes, yeah.
To hire the consultant to find out what our needs are as far as a new jail, what it would cost, where it will be, and all types of different things. And one thing we have going for us is Delta County, Escanaba, built a new jail 4 years ago, which is a state-of-the-art, excellent thing. It beds 158, I think, up to 200. And we have a great relationship with Ed Oswald, the sheriff there, who's given us everything that they have, and will, if and when we do get it, is helping us along with every aspect of that. So it's really, really good. But the situation grows worse. We are now contracting out inmates, Elger County. They have right now, I think, 4 or 5.
correct. We're averaging 86 inmates in an 80-bed jail right now. We had to release 8 early because of overcrowding, and we've boarded out 4 inmates to Elger County.
Every week, we have a jail management plan, and once it hits that 80, we have to pick. And what's different now than ever is not all, but majority, I'd say 90-something% of the people in our jail are felons. And so every week, when we get more people, we have to pick the lesser of the evil and let them out. So it's a situation that's really serious, and we're hoping that everything goes well with, a jail. But we're in a very, very earliest part of it right now, just looking.
And I'm happy to report at the end of this month, our 3 new hires will be going solo, so we will be at full staffing at current budgeted levels. And in addition to that, the county has agreed to give us 1 more general patrol deputy for next year. And they have also created a line item for public safety where they're going to contribute 50% of the marijuana tax money to a public safety line item, hopefully to restore our 24/7 coverage, in addition to some other public safety initiatives. So, like the sheriff said, we want to be careful on who we hire because we want to make sure we get the right people in place when that happens. So things are, we're starting to get a lot of traction right now. So, and we appreciate the partnership with the townships. We've had a long-standing contract here with Marquette Township, along with Tilden Township. They have a contract. And tomorrow, we will be meeting with Richmond Township. They're going to be starting to consider a contract with us as well. So we appreciate that partnership. It's a good symbiotic relationship. And so for tonight, we have the contract for 2025. And if there's any questions regarding that contract or service or any other general questions, we'd be happy to entertain that.
John, you want to talk general?
I just want to point out one obvious change in this version over prior versions, if you've read them, and that is the current version actually calls out the fact that we pay for the vehicle maintenance the vehicle we purchase for their extra coverage. We've always been paying that. It's just never been itemized in the contract. And the good news is, other than the 1 year where we had to make a double upset payment because we forgot to the year prior due to staffing changes, we've always been on budget just by budgeting the number of hours that they've promised to provide us, but generally fall short on due to vacations and staffing issues, that kind of thing. So the vehicle maintenance ends up being covered by the hours that we don't end up paying them for. We'll talk about that more on Friday, but wanted you to be aware before you considered approving the updated contract. And thanks to Attorney Zappa for pointing that out, because I missed it when I reviewed it myself, so didn't do my job.
Linda?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in the background information, it says that there will be an 11% increase from last year to this year. So please explain why
Yes.
there's 11%.
So the Deputies Association had a contract renewal. Their contract expired in July, so they recently got a 3-year contract. Prior to that contract being accepted, Marquette County deputies were the lowest paid law enforcement in Marquette County, with the exception, I believe, of NMU Police Department. So the deputies have now gotten a more competitive contract, and so the increase in wages is obviously reflected in the increase in the contract rate. I did forward in the information, I did forward on to your township manager there the breakdown of how we arrive at that rate. There is a, I believe, $20,000 budgeted into there for overtime. For instance, if an officer works a holiday, you obviously have to pay them an overtime rate. And then when the officer is on vacation, we backfill that with an overtime. So that's part of the rate. And then basically just indirect costs because you have the when you have your township deputy, but then you have your front office staff that supports that deputy, along with your command staff that handles that. So there's kind of indirect costs built into that. So there, we do have a breakdown if you're interested in how our finance arrived at that rate.
And it's the same spreadsheet that were provided annually, just with the new wage and benefit costs, really.
Right.
So that's the only difference.
Yeah, there's no additional costs other than the wage and the benefits that derive from that.
Something interesting, and I know the board has looked at in the past and other places starting their own police department and that type of thing. Just recently, there was a change through MCOLS, Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. And now they got quite a, and I've been on that board for, I think, 7 years, and I was the chair of that board. And they oversee the licensing and every officer in the state of Michigan, 18,537, I think was the last count. And that's down from 21,000 at one time, but we foresee there will be a shortage of police officers for the next 5 years. But where was I going with this?
But basically, we have to be
Outrageous.
competitive in the labor market to be able to attract and retain professional police officers. You know, that was part of the contract. The county had done a wage and market study, and that was just to bring us into the mean of our labor market. It wasn't to bring us over the top.
It's important to explain that to our customers,
Right,
because
yeah,
11% is
right. That's
a
a sticker
high
shock.
number.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's good to understand
So
because.
it's really wages.
Right, so if someone wants to move to the area, if we don't have those wages up there, may look at Marquette City or different law enforcement entities. So we need to be competitive in that
Yeah,
labor market.
right.
I remember where I was going with that now. Smaller agencies are going to start going by the wayside because there's so much paperwork that now the state requires from agencies. There's training that now, how many hours?
24 hours annually.
24 hours annually, which was never, believe it or not, you know, we're jack of all trades and master of none, but we're expected from first aid to, you know, traffic to everything that we carry in our cars, and we never have any required training except to shoot. I think that was the only thing, and now, and it's gonna go up, but 24 hours of training each officer a year. So that's substantial to try and get every officer that amount. And so the small agencies are they're in the office doing the paperwork that the state requires, and then the training, and so it's really, really hard when those people are in the office, or, you know, to have actual coverage. So smaller agencies, I think you're going to see more and more contracting with the larger agencies because of that fact.
That's interesting. Randy?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 contract for police services with the Marquette County Sheriff's Department as presented, with a net anticipated cost of $260,915.20. And just a comment, we just recently in August had that millage on the ballot, and our residents overwhelmingly approved that.
I'll support that.
So that millage will cover how much of this?
Won't cover it all, but
So
It's
some,
approximately 80 hours a week. So the second shift that the township agreed to support is covered by the millage. The first shift, however you want to look at it, the other half is paid directly out of the general fund. The good news is we have marijuana revenues now we didn't have before.
not gonna last. It's our fun money.
That's what the county's doing too.
We don't make brownies.
Any other questions for our staff? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
The only other, I just think of something else, is to encourage your citizens, as Tim spoke, you know, getting those tips. A lot of times they can't automatically do something, but the way we build a case, and sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. And we get a lot of calls from your citizens, what should I do? And we tell them, you know, get license plate numbers, and when you get a bunch of them over a week's time, give it to one of us, and then we give it to Upset, or we look at ourselves. But that is, those tips, I can't tell you, they go a long way. That you won't see it overnight, but it makes a difference. So I really encourage the citizens to keep it up, because that's ultimately how we get the people.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Information.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Sure.
coming, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sheriff, I do have to say that your Deputy Anderson is great. I do have to
We don't
commend
have to
him
get
on
too
it.
big, but yeah, we're very lucky to have
He's
Mike.
a great guy.
He's a good guy.
Thank you.
Asset to your department.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is consider Metro Act telecommunications permit.
Okay, so when new communications companies come to the community, they have a state law under which they can be present, which is the Metro Act. And the form you have before you to consider, which has been reviewed by legal, and Roger can clarify things if I get the details a little bit off. Basically, without this document approved, they can't exist in our community. And the company is basically Highline, and they are providing rural broadband using federal broadband monies to basically get 1 gig internet to the home in rural areas where it doesn't currently exist. And you can see by the map that they're planning on coming in along 492 and going along the highway, going into Lake Enchantment and down Grove Street. So there's, I'm sure, a loop with the city there. But they need your authorization to exist. They've already got us covered by their insurance. And I will allow the attorney to clarify anything else that you need to know to make your decision.
This is essentially a right-of-way agreement, an agreement to allow them to use the right-of-way. And there's a couple of very complex statutes that I won't go into the details on, but one of the provisions of the Metro Act statute indicates that when you do get an application, a provider's right to access and use of a public right-of-way shall not unreasonably be denied by a municipality. So in other words, if you're inclined to not allow them to use your right-of-way, you need to specify what your good reason is for not doing that. Or it can be overridden, and there's a detailed procedure for that as well.
I move to approve the permit as presented. Support.
Any questions for John or Roger? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. And Drive realignment proposal.
This is a chicken or egg kind of situation we have. Michigan Veteran Homes, Jacob Eddy, Home for Veterans has zeroed in on the property here on Venture Drive. They have not presented a formal site plan for the Township Planning Commission to review and consider, but before they can do that, they're needing approval from the Road Commission to relocate the western portion of Venture Drive. I say chicken and egg because the Road Commission kind of wants to know where the township stands on this proposed realignment. And it's become a realignment, not a partial abandonment. The original plan, I think, was to abandon Venture Drive west of Fish and Wildlife all the way over to Old Wright Street. The current plan is as shown in the packet, and if you only look at the packet version, you're only going to see part of the map, but it's to realign Venture Drive to the south of the south property line out to 492 to a new location, or not 492, Old Wright Street, to a location just south of County Road HQ. It currently comes out just north of County Road HQ. The DDA saw that proposal at their October meeting and was wise enough to send the chair, Rob Sved, up to the next Road Commission meeting to express concerns about what the DDA would like to see, which includes continuing safe routes to school, through this new realignment, and also hoping that the intersection would possibly align with County Road HQ, which makes sense from a fire response perspective, along with all the other reasons you would normally like the intersection to align. Talking to the road commission, because Old Wright Street is a low-volume road by all modern standards, the offset that is being proposed is adequate according to those traffic volumes, so it's not a critical situation, but it would still be, in my opinion, as the DDA suggested, a good idea to have that intersection aligned. Michigan Veteran Homes has an issue with moving their portion of the intersection further north because of wetland impacts. Anytime you get into wetland impacts, you have to replace them somewhere else. That becomes costly. There's no bank locally available for them to just buy into for them. So the best option would be when HQ is rebuilt to align that half of the intersection with the new venture location. Am I making sense? I'm getting a little bit of an inquisitive look from someone down there. Might be somebody that was up too late last night though. Anyway.
No, I'm fine.
So there's a few things that are written into the recommendation, which I have bounced off of the road commission already. Their concern currently is the only response they have from the township on this proposed realignment and abandonment is what they heard from the DDA. It's not that what the DDA requested is out of line, it's actually good planning. It's just that's the only thing the road commission has. So we felt it would be appropriate for the township board to weigh in on this so that Michigan Veteran Homes can continue with their planning for their project and eventually get a site plan to the planning commission for review. So those recommendations are included and also part of my motion. And I can tell you, the more I thought about it, the more it grew. And then I talked to the road commission and they said, well, did you think about this? And then it grew some more. So there are a list of 8 recommendations. The first is that the Safe Routes to School project that was already built, that gets anyone over to North Star Academy, needs to exist in its current cross-section once Venture Drive is realigned. So whether it's directly behind the curb or offset, I don't think that's so much a concern, but the width and style of pathway that currently exists needs to follow all the way through the property over to Old Wright Street. The second is the new road alignment should be reconstructed to its current cross-section because that is a primary route from Trowbridge to a significant portion of our commercial district. If you make it too narrow, it's going to force people to use other routes. We don't want them going out Commerce Drive to 492/Wright Street. We all know that's our least favorite intersection currently. So if you maintain a proper road width through there, people will feel comfortable even with an S-curve. The S-curve will actually slow people down, so speed shouldn't be an issue even if the road is wider than they'd like to build it. The third is that County Road HQ be realigned with the new proposed venture intersection at some point in the future if HQ is reconstructed, and that's if it's feasible. And the reason I say that is HQ currently pops out directly to the north of a stormwater detention facility. That has recorded documents at the county courthouse that protect it. So it's not just, well, we'll move the road and move the detention basin. There's paperwork that has to happen. It can be done, it just has to be part of the planning process. The problem is the road commission has $2 million a year to spend on roads, road construction, and County Road HQ isn't a priority for them without some sort of extra funding or appropriation. We had an appropriation that included that was not supported by somebody. Just putting that out there.
Doesn't matter now.
I know, it's just rubbing salt in the wound. All existing municipal utilities be relocated out of the existing venture right-of-way at the developer's expense. And primarily that's water main. So that's a critical loop going through to maintain proper flow through our commercial district. They will relocate it along the new alignment, so that loop will be maintained. Existing roadway be obliterated and restored at the developer's expense, which makes sense because the building would actually go on top of where the road currently is. So they would have to anyway, but they'll have to remove all of it and restore the portions that aren't under the building. The relocated venture must be paved and open to traffic before the existing road can be abandoned, which makes sense too because that's such a critical connector and we don't want to send everyone out the direction we just talked about. The new right-of-way must be equal or greater to the existing 80-foot right-of-way, which makes sense. That's the only way you can fit the road in there. And then the developer bears all costs for constructing a new road and all costs associated with abandoning the existing road. Does that make sense? Any questions, concerns?
So whoever makes the motion does not have to repeat all of that.
It is written in the motion, it's in the packet, it's in the public record, and it will be in the minutes if you agree to the recommendation.
So moved.
Support?
Okay? Questions? Perfectly clear, right? We're just kinda just jig-jagging around. 600 cars a day goes down that road, so.
We reviewed this quite a bit at the road committee level, and it makes sense.
It was a good thought to try to realign that to match the intersection, but there's just too much involved with it. Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider CTCL grant application for election funding. We're not gonna have any more elections, aren't we? We're good?
So the background is I looked into this 4 years ago, and the grant program was around for this election also, which is the Center for Tech and Civic Life, offering $5,000 for rural non-metro townships or municipalities for defraying election expenses. So last time I used part of that money for a camera overlooking our drop box, because that's a new requirement of drop boxes nowadays, is to have video surveillance. So we added that. I think that was a couple $1,000 project. And so I'm looking for approval for this round, because we can use it for beefing up our supplies for the next round of elections in '26. So you can use it for a variety of things. We have a list we can use it for, like some technology items, like if I need a new computer for a poll book, or a new printer, new label printer, various items, training for staff, just a variety of things, which is nice. So I'm looking for approval of that to execute, and there's no match on this. It's just, I submit the paperwork and we get a check for $5,000. And when we're done with that, I submit the expenses to the CTCL and explain what we used it for, and then it's usually good.
I'll make that motion.
Support?
Okay, any questions for Randy? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Planning Commission, anything to share?
The Planning Commission met on Wednesday, October 23rd. Under project updates, we reviewed the 2025 capital improvement program requests. We did approve those requests to go back to the board. And we reviewed the 2024 master plan update business survey results. And so I'm thinking soon we will have more information to share about the master plan. And that was it.
That'll be exciting. Can't wait to see it. Any public comment? Anybody wanna share anything? Sure, come on, Rob.
Johnson Ed. I'll start as just the chair of the DDA. Everything that Manager Kangas said is what we had talked about at the DDA level, and that's what we were hoping to see. When I went to that meeting, I spoke about the safe routes to school, the worry about our TAP grant project that's supposed to be going in to provide a pathway along Wright Street, and also a hope that at some point it could be realigned, and they took that and ran with it, so I'm glad that you are all supporting what we had talked about at the DDA would be the best way forward there. I apologize for being late today. I would have loved to be here for the first public comment. I will take off the DDA hat and put on my resident hat, 1420 Cox Avenue. I like listening to Detective Lieutenant Scholander. I think Upset does some remarkable work in the area. I don't necessarily think that general fund dollars is where that money should come from. If it were to come from your marijuana fund, since marijuana and heroin go hand in hand, learned something new tonight. Some people only smoke when they drink. I don't necessarily see a correlation between those two things. Another thing that strikes me as maybe a little old school, and maybe I am too young to have an opinion up here, but the war on drugs started in 1971 with Richard Nixon. I don't think we've gotten very far. It does seem like we're sending a lot of money down the same route, and we are seeing some convictions, which are great. So we can put somebody away at the cost of $60,000 a year for 10 or 15 years, which is taking residents out of the township. I don't know who these residents were. I assume they were using some of our services, probably taxpayers. Also with the sheriff contract, I do think Linda brought up that 11% is a huge increase, and both Sheriff Zybert and now Under Sheriff Larson, they made good points on why that needs to go up. We do need to attract people. Is that my 3-minute timer? Oh, that's just 8 o'clock. Having 63% of the department under 5 years and paying a wage of $63 an hour as that's not the actual wage that they're being paid, but that is the amount that we're paying out for that. I think it feels a little high. Paying the overtime, I understand, is great. Deputy Anderson is amazing on road patrol. I've seen him out and talked to him a few times. And I also don't think that paying for their staff and command is something we necessarily need to do. They're already doing that. I don't think that our extra deputies should go towards that. And I wasn't going to bring up the transparency word because we hear that a lot, that government isn't transparent, and I think this board is extremely transparent. However, on our ballot, it's not really broken down very well for our referendums on what we're going to do with this money. It's saying for extra patrol, and I don't know that people understand that we would still have road patrol if we didn't spend $260,000 a year. And it also, on the ballot, it says that this should bring in $123,000 or $129,000 a year in the first year, but it's not explained that the cost is $260,000. And I know that falls on the residents to be informed, and it's not necessarily your responsibility to inform them, but I do feel that costs are rising, and a lot of these things are getting floated through kind of fast. I do want to thank John Marks for his service. You have been a good voice on the board. And Mike Springer, amazing to work with on the DDA. We have pathways that I enjoy all the time. He's awesome. I believe that is all the notes that I had today. That is. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, any announcements from the board? You, Randy?
Yeah, I'll give you some general comments from last evening. Again, thank you to all my poll workers and my staff. They did a great, awesome job. And thanks to the Sheriff's Department for being close by in case we had any issues, which I know one township did, but they took care of it pretty fast. Some statistics. So historically, 4 years ago, we had about 70% of the township vote in the last election, and we had 2 precincts at that time. So we had about, between the 2 precincts, we had about 1,000 people in person. In absentee, we had about 1,600. Now, this year, with the addition of the early voting, we had 874 take advantage of the early voting over the 9 days, and we had 832 in person yesterday and 1,136 absentee. So it was a grand total of 2,842 out of 3,778. So it's a 75% turnout, which is the highest turnout we've had. So it's pretty good. The building, I was kind of worried about how we would handle it here because we've never had that kind of volume here before. But our wait times were, I think the most we had to wait was like, we had 14 folks at the tabulator. And sometimes if you get a person that runs their ballot through and it having an issue, you'll get that little bit of a backup. But it was resolved quickly, and I don't believe anyone had a more of a wait time than just a few minutes. I know to the east of us, there was wait times of 45 minutes in some places. So I think everything went well here last night, and again, looking forward, I'll have a wrap-up meeting with my staff here the next few weeks. We'll figure out what we need to get for supplies for 2026, and we'll just do an overview of what we think we could do better next time. So that's all I have, and everything was good. We had 2 write-ins on the township ballot for trustee. John Leighton was one, and Brent Graves was the other person. John Leighton received the most votes on the write-in. I won't have those numbers until the County Board of Canvassers meets tomorrow, and they'll finalize things on Monday. So those totals will be official on Monday. So they're unofficial right now, but they should be by next week. And the reason they got to do that is because overseas ballots can still come in by Monday and be counted. So the County Board of Canvassers will do their official closeout next week. Then we're good to go.
Good. Excellent job, Randy.
Thank you.
Any other
For your hard
announcements?
work. It's a lot to do.
Yeah, like I've told folks, when you're running elections, you have to be on your A game at all time. You can't be on your B game, because if you have a problem, I have poll challengers and poll workers and poll watchers there, and they're very serious on how the process is going. So you have to make sure you're on your A game at all times to make sure the flow goes good. And luckily yesterday, the poll challengers were good, and I made sure that we communicated pretty well. And if there was a problem, they'd come to me, and we had no problems. They actually complimented us on how the process went here, so it was very good.
Good deal. Okay, manager?
Do we want to talk about dogs tonight?
Sure, it's
Go for it.
circulating in the township.
It's definitely not a dead issue. Fortunately, because A lot of dog walkers still have their beloved pets, and they still love to walk their dogs, and they would also still love to walk their dogs unleashed on the well road. I get it. They were permitted to do that for a long time, and I'm not sure who authorized it, but it was authorized by a sign on the well road gate. I haven't been convinced otherwise by anyone that the township board took action to authorize that. What I have is action by the township board to follow state law, which is the 1919 leash law that says the dogs must be on a leash. So that's why we put the signs up there. And I unfortunately know that impacts what had been tolerated for a really long time. It was a liability waiting to happen, and I guess hopefully now we're at least covered if an issue does happen out there. I'm not sure what else to do other than we are now compliant with state law the way it's posted. If there's a desire to find an alternate place to allow dogs off leash in the township, that would have to come from a decision by the board. I don't know that we have other property that's convenient for that kind of thing yet. Maybe we have to look for it, and maybe we have to ask for that user group to have some skin in the game the way the other user groups are having to put skin in the game. Softball, maybe pickleball coming up soon, mountain bikers. Having skin in the game seems to go a lot further than just a demand for something that we don't have unlimited resources for.
Especially if they're not township residents. We don't know that some of them are and aren't, whether
Right.
it's trails or dogs or whatever.
Yeah, and I think we can all speculate where the majority of those users are coming from, but nobody's out there checking driver's licenses or anything like that, and I don't think we intend to police it either. But if it's a problem, we will have to do enforcement, and unfortunately, that's what the law is there for, is to protect those. I just want to say one other thing about that. I think most dog walkers feel they have control of their dog, even if they're unleashed. That's their biased opinion. That doesn't mean that others around them feel the same way. The time that I went to get out of the car and there's a dog barking right next to my head outside the car door, that dog was not under control. Now, I happened to recognize the dog and knew that it was relatively docile, but I had never seen it barking at anyone before. Close the door and wait for it to be under control. That took time. And that was one of 3 incidents within a very short period of time where the dogs were clearly not under control. And just because it's not biting somebody doesn't mean you have control of them either. So it's a challenging subject. Folks feel like they had a privilege taken away when it was really authorized, we're not sure how, other than by a sign that we've now corrected at least with a piece of tape. It's temporary. The permanent sign will ultimately be there when it makes sense to put it there. I guess I just wanted to state that because we still are getting questions, concerns as to how this happened, and really it was a board decision to have staff post it so we're following state law, period. Not a local ordinance, it's state law, the 1919 leash law, or dog law. So I did post a copy of the excerpt of that portion of the law on the sign out there. I haven't checked to see if it's still there. Some people don't even like that, so it's easy to just remove and make disappear.
So in support of John, and not just John, but all of the residents in our township, it's important, and if it's a 1919 law, as you stated, the people who live in the township need to have their dogs under control as well. And I've seen that many times. Dogs are running and not under control. And I also happened to have been at Sugarloaf one day, and that same thing was happening. And that's frightening to people who have something coming at them barking. And so I'm very supportive of people having their dogs under control. And it's not the dog's fault, as my dad would say. It's not the dog, it's the owners. Got lots of smiling faces back there.
Any questions for John? Anything else you wanted to share?
Congratulations to the 6 of you that will still be part of my
World?
my boss structure in December. Congratulations to Trustee Marks on a fine career. I've appreciated all the moments we've shared over the last 5 years, and maybe for a couple more weeks yet. And hopefully we'll have a proper send-off for you when it's time.
Maybe.
I'll create the agenda.
I'll bring the treats.
What else, anything? Okay, you wanna read motions, please, Randy?
Yeah, the first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as presented. The third motion was to approve the Public Works truck crane. That was approved. The fourth motion was to approve the Fishback proposal for Northwoods Pump Station. That was approved. The next one is not really a motion, but it's just information about the fire department operations manual being available for inspection in the office, and it was emailed to the board members. The fifth motion was to approve the contract for police services with the sheriff's department, and that was approved. The sixth motion was to approve the Metro Act telecommunications permit, and that was approved. Seventh motion was to approve the Venture Drive realignment proposal. That was approved. And the eighth motion was to approve the CTCL grant application for the election funding, and that was approved.
Lots of business tonight. Nothing special for the next agenda. That'll be November 20th. I'm sure something will come up. Any comments? Anything, John?
I just would like to indicate to Sheriff Seibert and his staff that I am extremely proud of the service you've given us. We've been partners for years, and every year has been an improvement. And every year we receive more and more congratulations from our citizens about the fine service that you and your staff provide us. We're proud of that, and we should be.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, John. Randy?
And just a response to Rob's comments about the ballot proposals, they are written by an attorney, so, but they have to be clear and concise, and we can't go sometimes over the bounds because you can't explain, you can't have a volume there. I get this much on a ballot, so it has to be fit in that spot. So they're thought out well when we do the language, and they're run by our legal counsel to make sure that they are clear and concise for the voter to make the choice. So I do understand your question is it generates 160,000, but we're contributing 100 from the general fund for that. So it's an additional funding, but that's how we go about with these ballot proposals, and so it isn't just worded. There's a process, and the board has to approve the language, so it's always done that way. So that's how that works.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we just need to close up shop then.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn. I was waiting for you to do it, so.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:59.